And with that, let's get to the Inside Track panel. Tax attorney and author of Wealth Unbroken, Growing Wealth, Uninterrupted by Market Crashes, Taxes, and Even Death, Rebecca Walser. Criminal defense attorney and former prosecutor David Gelman, and publisher of the Lieberman Files and former Democratic Senate candidate in Georgia, Matt Lieberman. Great to have you back. Matt, let's start with you. AOC, racking up some serious frequent flyer miles. I didn't think she'd show up in Munich, but she did. What did you make of when she was tested on some key foreign policy questions?
To quote her, look, I think the good news is that all these candidates, and particularly the Democratic ones, are showing that they realize that these issues are important, that the Democratic platform needs to be about more than, God forbid, socialism and the proliferation of democratic socialism, Mamdaniism, whatever, that there are issues around the globe that matter. So it's good that they're there. AOC did not make a great start. No. Gretchen Whitmer, that was not the most elegant punt that we've seen, but it's good that they're there. I'm not sure that either of them helped themselves, and I'm glad that Marco Rubio is getting credit for, I think consistently he has been putting out a clear, strong vision on these issues.
For anyone that missed AOC's comments, let's play it right now. This is what Matt was just referring to. Watch.
Would and should the U.S. actually commit U.S. troops to defend Taiwan if China were to move?
I think that this is such a, I think that this is this is, of course, a very long-standing policy.
All right, Dave, you're up. If you're going to go over there on the world stage, should you not be more prepared for questions like that?
Frankly, they should have just stayed home because, they're saying how they're affecting the environment and everything like that. They just wasted gas to get there. They really made the United States look bad. Please, I hope to God the people of Munich do not take those individuals as the individuals that are running our government. That was an embarrassment. And if that is going to be their field or potential field for 2028, thank you
for the win, especially with the Secretary of State Rubio's comments. I mean, he got a standing ovation. But Gavin Newsom, I mean, he's calling out Trump. He always does this. But you know what Trump has been doing for America? He has the results to prove that it's working. Gavin Newsom, does he look even worse by going over there and saying that Trump is, this isn't working, that he's weak, he's all these things? I don't buy it.
It's a couple of things about that, John. So this is his second attempt. He was at the World Economic Forum in Davos, and I remember saying at that time, this is a man that we were talking, he was speaking the year anniversary of the fires, and like less than 10 houses have been rebuilt under his leadership. How do you go to the world stage when your state is such a mess and economically we won't even go there? So, and then he talks about, John, he says, President Trump only cares about strength. I have never heard that as an insult in my life. I'm just trying to sit there and say, why is that a bad thing that a U.S. president in this day and age is concerned about having strength and coming from a position of power and rebuilding, his Monroe type-esque, Trump and doctrine? I mean, this is so sad. And to your point, AOC goes over there, Gretchen Whitmer goes over there, and they aren't even prepared with talking points or bullets on how to respond to the things that are geopolitically. China has been doing military drills with Taiwan for the last 2 years in earnest, and you aren't even prepared to say something about it at a Munich World Security Conference. I don't understand why this makes these people. It's just like, I went there, and I'm a global world speaker now.
Presence, but you don't bring any content.
You bring nothing to it, and if you're not prepared to speak, and Gavin Newsom is not prepared to say, this is the record in California and I stand by it. All he wants to do is attack. I'm so tired of it. In the law, we call it, it's a red herring. You're just constantly trying to obfuscate your own record and make the other guy look bad by just, just ad hominem attacks. Nothing of merit.
We'll see what happens next. I mean, Marco Rubio certainly got quite the ovation there from the world stage. We'll see what happens next. This is the last day here, the Munich Security Conference. Rebecca Walser, David Gelman, Matt Lieberman, great. We got another hour coming up, and the Inside Tracks. Don't go away for that. Still ahead here on Sunday Report, we've got more. Change or get dumped. This is An Even Death, Rebecca Walser. Criminal defense attorney and former prosecutor David Gelman and publisher of the Lieberman Files and former Democratic Senate candidate Matt Lieberman. Great to have you here. Appreciate you both, all of us. Let's get started. I mean, this was an interesting one because CBS has taken some flack here that they cherry-picked these numbers. This was even brought up with the White House press secretary's press conference this past week. Caroline Leavitt asked, well, she even didn't even, I think, got asked about an Inside Track panel. Tax attorney and author of Wealth Unbroken, Growing Wealth Uninterpreted by Market Crashes, Taxes, and Even Death, Rebecca Walser. Criminal defense attorney and former prosecutor David Gelman and publisher of the Lieberman Files and former Democratic Senate candidate Matt Lieberman. Great to have you here. Appreciate you both, all of us. Let's get started. I mean, this was an interesting one because CBS has taken some flack here that they cherry-picked these numbers. This was even brought up with the White House press secretary's press conference this past week. Caroline Leavitt asked, well, she even didn't even, I think, got asked about it. She just said, here's my statement to watch.
These so-called nonviolent crimes, drug trafficking, distribution of child porn, burglary, fraud, DUI, embezzlement, solicitation of a minor, and human smuggling, just to name a few. So just because a crime is not violent in nature doesn't mean that crime is victimless. And I can guarantee every single person who is out there on television right now pointing to these statistics that were taken out of context by CBS News would not want an illegal alien convicted of the distribution of child porn or fraud or DUI living in your communities.
And so that's the White House's interpretation of that article by CBS News. Dave, let's go to you for the legal perspective here. I mean, there are victims of these crimes. They might not be as violent and fall into that category, but that was what the administration really wanted to prove the point this past week.
It's pretty interesting. CBS is wrong again. Isn't that the same network that had 60 Minutes and had to get, had to settle a multi-million-dollar lawsuit against President Trump? Look, when you have these types of crimes, child pornography, drug distribution, doesn't necessarily mean that it's not violent. There are victims associated with it. You have the children, you have the families of the individuals who are selling the drugs or selling drugs to that family. So this is all a smokescreen, if you think about it, from CBS and their reporting. These are not necessarily violent crimes. However, they are crimes, and they are very serious crimes. And these individuals are in our country illegally. And then what are they doing illegally? They are selling drugs. They are doing crimes that are also illegal. 1 + 1 does not equal correctness here.
Rebecca, do you think that this was right for the administration to point this out? And people watch and read CBS News, they're going to have a different interpretation of what these figures are. I mean, if the administration gets in front of this and says, look, no, this isn't right. This is actually potentially could be violent crimes down the road if we don't get these people out of the country illegally.
And I disagree that they're not violent. I mean, that's a classification, right? I mean, any mathematician, statistician knows that you can frame numbers however you want. You just have to actually say, okay, let's shift and ask the different question. So I can say, Johnny Joe killed his stepfather, and we can say, wow, that's awful. He should go to prison for murder, until I tell you that he was defending his sister who was being abused. Everything can be framed a certain way. As a parent who has 3 children that are in school, I have had to tell them, don't accept little sweet tart candies because they could be laced with fentanyl. Right. So drug trafficking is violent. It is murder by proxy. And so I'm sorry, it is violent. And also, but let's remember, these people are not coming into our country legally. So all of their activity before they came here, we don't even know about. We're not even sure that who they are, what they are. So let's just literally tone it down on, well, the people that we're letting in aren't violent. I mean, come on.
Matt, I mean, from a Democratic perspective, I mean, they're getting some help here from the media in terms of, they're skewing some of these facts. You might argue that. But at the same time, is this something that they're trying to double down on heading into the midterm election here? I mean, we know that ICE in Minnesota was a major problem. Now they're trying to back it up with these statistics to say that they're humanizing a lot of these people that are in detention, when in fact the administration now has to come out and say, no, these people, you really want their record? Well, here it is. This is what they were accused of.
Well, I'm not sure if it was CBS or the White House, Homeland Security, but I also saw there was a pie chart published that broke down each category of the crime or offense for which these folks, I think almost 400,000, have been deported. Look, Trump has always been big for a long time talking about the murderers and the rapists pouring over the border. The fact is that in total, so maybe like 1.5 or 2% of these people are murderers and rapists, and good, get them the heck out of here. But as has been pointed out, if you're not a murderer rapist, doesn't mean you're an ideal citizen, doesn't mean that you haven't broken the law, doesn't mean you haven't done terrible things. And we do have a law, and what they've done is illegal. Look, I think what the American people have a problem with is not the deportation of people who have come here illegally, particularly those who have committed any kind of crime or offense. What they have problems with is what this guy, Greg Bovino, who's been booted out of Minneapolis, was doing, which is sort of charging up what I would call truly a fascist-style domestic terror squad that resulted in a couple people being shot in the streets of Minnesota. That's what has led to Trump's numbers plummeting. That's why Holman got him out of there. That's why Minneapolis is changing a little bit.
We got about a minute, so we're going to keep this. We'll make it rapid responses here. I want to play Chuck Schumer.
Yes.
The SAVE Act was something that made news this week. Let's watch what he had to say about it today. Watch.
Well, yeah, the voter ID laws that, first, each state can have its own voter ID laws, and some do and some don't. But secondly, what they are proposing in this so-called SAVE Act is like Jim Crow 2.0.
So there's Schumer. Rapid reactions. Let's go around the table. Rebecca, the SAVE Act, I mean, voter ID should be required, shouldn't it? What do you think?
If you cannot buy a beer without an ID, you cannot vote without an ID. It's just ridiculous on its face.
Dave.
Common sense is just not common anymore, especially in the Democratic Party. Look at that, 83% favor this. This is not a big issue.
Absolutely.
Just do it.
Matt, Democrats doubling down on it.
Yeah, Jim Crow was one of the worst periods in American history. This is not that. This is what the common sense law is going to be. That's the question.
We shall see what happens next. Rebecca, David, Matt.